Incredible things happened in the region we now call Western New York along the Canadian border. Giant glaciers and rocks the size of Gibraltar scooped out the Great Lakes, and the overflow from that little project created one of nature's natural wonders, Niagara Falls. Annually, over 1 million tourists visit Niagara Falls, New York, to witness something that no postcard can possibly do justice to. Hello everyone, I'm Steve Evans. If you visit the falls and stand this close on a blustery day, plan on getting wet. It's incredible the mist at 150,000 cubic feet of water a second, falling 192 feet, can create. Today, tourists are attracted to Niagara Falls for a roar of another kind. The Sports Car Club of America's Trans Am Sedan Championship, the inaugural running of the Niagara Falls Grand Prix. A street course of 1.5 miles with 15 turns, but not a slow street course as some of them we have seen in the past. This one will offer some tremendous speeds. And down on the grid is my buddy Brock Yates.
Well, Steve, here in Niagara Falls, New York, we've got these streets more famous for strolling honeymooners, but today they're full of high-powered race cars. And we've got, as usual, some high-powered automobiles from Europe and some favored domestic brands. But on the pole, from West Germany, the champion rally driver, three-time world rally driving champion, Walter Röhrl, in the turbocharged four-wheel drive Audi. And let's have a quick word. His engines are fired up. Walter, do you feel that the four-wheel drive Audi will have an advantage today?
I think so, yes. The track is fantastic for my car.
Well, we wish you all the luck. We'll be watching it.
I will need it. Thank you.
What a contrast we have in the front row for this race. Walter Röhrl, whom Brock just talked to, in a marvel of German technology. And alongside him from Northern California will be this man, Willie T. Ribbs. Nobody drives harder, but Willie had a bit of a problem in warm-ups this morning. The Les Lindley-owned number 80 Camaro got away from him in turn number 1 and into the wall pretty hard. Willie surveyed the damage, and it was not good news for the crew when they arrived on the scene. The car had to be taken into the garage area, the engine removed, and out came the welding equipment to try to straighten the suspension and the chassis.
As always, though, emergency repairs like this in the garage area are iffy at best, and nobody was quite sure whether or not they were going to get the chassis set up back to where it should be for Willie T. But moments ago, those repairs were completed, and the car was rolled onto the grid here at Niagara Falls, where the third member of our broadcast team, Paul Page, is now with Willie T.
Well, Brock, the car is here. It was a late arrival on the grid, but nevertheless, Willie T. Ribbs is in the cockpit and ready to go. Willie, are you concerned about the car at all? I know that they were worried about the frame. Do you think it's ready to race?
Well, you never know until you go a few laps to see how it's going to turn in and how it puts the power down and things like that. It just takes, you know, I'll know in about 5 or 10 laps how I'll be able to go.
The problems that you've had in the past couple of weeks, several races with Scott Pruitt, is there a chance that those would crop up again here today? It's certainly the talk of the pits.
You know, everybody would like to have a ticket sale and a lot of controversy, but, you know, you got to concentrate on racing and doing well and not worrying about where you're going to bang somebody or where they're going to bang you.
Willie Ribbs will start from a position that many think is the key position to winning this race, on the outside of the front row. Now, let's go back to Scott Pruitt, who is third fastest qualifier in Brock.
Starting right behind Walter Röhrl in this Mercure, beautiful turbocharged automobile, the man from Roseville, California, Scott Pruitt. And Scott, are you going to try to sneak through on the inside going down into turn 1? I know this is going to be a tough racetrack to pass on, and you got to pick and choose. Is that going to be a place where you'll try it, or will you sit back for a while?
I really plan on sitting back for a while. You see, with the V8, we can't go head-to-head with the Audi or the V6s because of our added weight. What I'm going to do is just go out, stay out of trouble, stay on the tires, and try and come home with a decent.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you.
And now, let's go to Paul with another man who's going to be a factor in this race.
Well, Brock, back on the inside of the third row is HURLEY, HAYWOOD, and the other Audi. These cars seem particularly adept for this course. Are you satisfied with them?
Yeah, I'm very satisfied. My Audi likes these street circuits. This is very twisty,
And judging from what's happened in the first 2 races, the pavement's coming up. So if that happens, we're going to be in really good shape. This is such a long race that you're going to have to treat it like an endurance race. It's only 150 miles, but I figure that's going to take almost 3 hours to run. So we're going to run very cautiously, see where we are after the first hour, and then do what we need to do to win.
The problems they've had with the circuit, the all-wheel drive pays off?
Oh, yeah. You know, the all-wheel drive is fantastic when the conditions are perfect, but when the conditions start to get bad, if it rains or if the surface starts to break up, we can put the Audi anywhere we want to. And on a place like this that's so tight, it's very important to be able to put the car exactly where you want it.
All right, Hurley Haywood. Now, all of these drivers and these cars face the same challenge, and that is this very tight street circuit here at Niagara Falls. Let's take a look at it.
Just how close is the racetrack to the falls itself? Take a look. No more than 1/4 of a mile. This is downtown Niagara Falls, New York, a community of some 72,000 people. The racetrack in the final analysis is actually 1.6 miles with 15 turns. Now you can see where the pits are located, and that's a short pit straight that goes into the tightest part of the racetrack. Earlier in the competition, Chris Neifel in this Pontiac Trans Am took one of our Diamond P Sports cameras for a ride to give us a driver's point of view.
Well, Chris Neifel is one of the real veterans of road racing, has run all kinds of cars, including Indianapolis machines and the big IMSA GTP prototypes. Right now, though, he's in Bruce Jenner's Pontiac here at Niagara Falls.
Here's the first part of the course that will challenge these drivers today. That is turn 1 and 2, just past the start-finish line, which is located at the center of the pit straight. It is very narrow, but surprisingly here, some of the braver drivers will try to pass under braking.
Well, here comes Chris turning onto the pit straightaway. You can see it's only about the width of 2 of these rather wide Trans Am cars. Here he is hard on the brakes around turns 1 and 2, that 180-degree hairpin onto 6th Street, heading toward what they call the S's here.
And the S is a rather flat turn in this course design. You see it in the right center portion of your straight. Quick little left onto that new pavement, then a right, and then a sweeping left-hander. That is turn number 5, and a very narrow turn number 6 that begins just about where that bridge is. Then a little kink in the circuit, straightens out again, and then a 90-degree turn onto 4th Street. You're only there for a second or two, and then that left-hander onto Niagara.
Chris accelerating through that little fleck of the wheel called the S's, but there comes turn 5, a decreasing radius left-hander, very tricky corner here, and through turn 6, just a very fast right-hander. Now, hard on the brakes for the 90-degree right-hander onto 4th Street, just a quick little straightaway, hard on the brakes, a left-hander onto the second longest straightaway here in Niagara Falls, Steve, Niagara Street.
And on Niagara, Brock, these drivers will be in their top gear, but probably not at their peak RPM. That's going to come after they make this left-hand turn at the end of that parking structure onto Rainbow. 150, possibly 160 miles per hour down this sweeping long straightaway with a left-hand turn you take flat out.
Here comes Chris onto that Rainbow Boulevard, the left-hander, and up ahead, as Steve said, the fastest part of this racetrack. Up through the gears, he'll touch 160 miles an hour through this sweeping left-hander down this long straightaway.
Well, if you've got the horsepower, the very wide Rainbow Straight is an ideal place to pass. Now, it's hard on the brakes for a left-hander onto 3rd Street, right where that brown structure multi-story building is. You're on 3rd Street for just a tick or 2 of the clock, and then that right onto Dugan, and then a very interesting left-hand turn that carries you kind of under the roof of the convention center.
Well, here comes Chris hard on the brakes for that left-hander at the end of Rainbow Boulevard. Here he goes through that corner, down 3rd Street. You can see still how narrow the racetrack is. Here comes the right-hander onto Dugan, and up ahead lies yet another corner, a left-hander through this little tunnel, back on 4th Street, a short straightaway. This is where the racetrack gets really tight. Here comes a right-hander onto Wendell Street. There's the pit entrance, just a little short squirt up through the gears. One final turn, a right-hander onto Pit Straight, completing 1.6 very difficult miles here at Niagara Falls.
Our thanks to Chris Neifel in the number 72 Pontiac Trans Am for that tour earlier of a very interesting course, Brock. A little something for everybody. There's narrow parts, wide parts, long straightaway, short stuff, a real challenge.
Absolutely. As we get ready, there's the roll car, the number 14 Audi on the pole. Willie Ribbs, number 80, Camaro gets underway on the outside of the front row, and there is the rest of the field starting to roll. Pruitt, of course, no love lost between he and Willie T, Steve.
Oh, they do not exchange Christmas cards, but they occasionally do exchange some paint, as they did battling for the lead on the last race in this Trans Am Series in Detroit, where the two of them got in a smash-up that allowed Hurley Haywood to sneak through the alley for the victory, so it cost both of them to get that physical.
By the way, I blew it. I told the folks that Pruitt was running a turbocharged Merkur. He's not. It's a V8, the only one in the world. There are two other turbo Merkurs run by Lynn St. James and Deborah Gregg in the field, but Scott's is a rare breed. In fact, the only one in the world, I think. Well, they say they sell those in South Africa, but I have to wonder about that. But they changed it to V8 for more torque on this very short, very tight course. There's Chris Neifel in our in-car camera. He's the number 10 qualifier. Chris warming up the tires like everybody else, gives a little wave as he heads out onto this very difficult racetrack. It's going to be mighty interesting to see how the four-wheel drive Audis work against the rear drive American iron.
Brought to you by Dodge Trucks. When it's gotta be right, it's gotta be a Dodge. By Old Milwaukee and Old Milwaukee Light. It doesn't get any better than this. And by Goodyear Eagle Tires. Goodyear, because there really is a difference.
Dodge Ram 100, the best full-size pickup buy in America. $1,400 less than a comparable Ford F-150. Only $88.53. But it's got to be right. It's got to be a Dodge.
Last year alone, over 60 major racing championships were won with the Goodyear Racing Eagle, the race-winning technology that helped develop these tires. Can be found in these tires, the Goodyear Eagle Street Radials, the best-selling performance tires in the world. Goodyear Eagles, because there really is a difference.
If you're the kind of person who approaches life wide open, your beer just arrived. Extra Gold Draft is what it's called. Big, full tilt taste is what it's got. If you like to drink beer, I mean really like to drink beer, look out. Because this new Extra Gold Draft is the biggest taste that's happened to beer since they put it in cans.
If your car is trying to tell you it wants something, come to Kmart and get it the 32-ounce Turtle Wax Hydro System to make washing or waxing a snap.
Nice car. Want some more?
Kmart, the saving place and more.
The mid-size Dodge Dakota. Available V6 power, room for 3, an 8-foot bed, and up to $1,500 in new package discounts. When it's gotta be right, it's gotta be a Dodge.
Brighten up your day with music videos and concert performances, along with star concert schedules and other news about your favorite performers. Shelley Mangrum is your host for Video Country, weekdays on TNN.
Well, this isn't exactly a Caribbean cruise, but I'll tell you what, it's one of the wildest boat rides in the world. This is the Maid of the Mist, a gutsy little boat that makes its way on a daily basis right to the base of these giant waterfalls. The current is terribly fast in here, very turbulent, and always the captain working those controls. In fact, this is edition number, I suppose, 100 of the Maid of the Mist. They've been running these little boats in here for well over a century, and millions of people have ridden what is one of the most spectacular rides on earth, Steve.
And what a bargain at $5.25. Well, as you can see, race fans are finding the best vantage points over this 1.6-mile course as the cars of the Escort Trans Am Sedan Championship come down rainbow on their final pace lap.
There's Rural leading the pack in that four-wheel drive Audi. A bunch of folks have turned out here as Hurley Haywood. Interesting, though, he's in the other four-wheel drive Audi, number 5 qualifier. He had some problems earlier, Steve.
That's right, and that necessitated an engine change this morning. They had an oil pump problem, and rather than try to fix the motor in the 44 car, they just installed a new one. They got a whole trailer full of them.
Well, this is a joint German-American effort. The Germans designed and built the car. It's maintained by the Bob Tullius team from Virginia. They campaigned the Jaguars until this year on the IMSA GTP circuit.
And the two drivers in those all-wheel drive Audis are the only ones out there that could care less if the pavement breaks up. They'd just as soon see it rain. It would give them a bigger advantage yet.
Well, Walter Royal's a rally driver. He'd just as soon have this thing run on dirt, Steve. It doesn't bother him a bit.
The green flag is out for 150 miles of racing in the streets of Niagara Falls, New York, and already the combat begins.
You saw the brakes lock up there as Chris Neifel negotiates that 180-degree corner right at the end of the pit straight. Royal jumps out into an early lead. Willie T. Ripped right behind him as they sweep through that turn number 5 down through turn 6. And Royal showing early power here with his Audi, Steve.
And in the blue number 1 car, that V8 Mercure, that is Scott Pruitt. He's in the 3rd spot trying to defend it against the 44 car of Hurley Haywood, the other all-wheel drive Audi.
And right behind him, and the only Corvette up near the front, the 88 car, that's Darren Brasfield. So those guys are starting to go at it for that 3rd spot. In the meantime, though, Royal pulling away just a little bit on Willie T. Here comes Scott Pruitt. There's the 44 car Haywood and Darren Brasfield down that big sweeper on Rainbow Boulevard, where they're running just about at max speed.
If there's one place on the course the V8 cars ought to be able to run with the Audis, it's on that long straight, Rainbow and Niagara for that matter. Hurley Haywood, the number 44 Audi, is in the 4th spot, but Darren Brasfield is just behind him. The Corvette looks big and bulky on this course block, but actually it's handling very nimbly for Brasfield.
Well, there's a major difference in these automobiles weight-wise, because the bigger the engine, the more weight you carry. So a lot of guys have chosen the V6s like Willie T to gain a little advantage weight-wise. Royal's car is pretty heavy, though. It's a turbocharged automobile, and the SCCA also assesses weight penalties if you carry a turbo on board.
The race for 3rd, Scott Pruitt in the blue number 1 car, the XR8 TI, for lack of a better name. But it looks like these first few laps, everybody's being real careful.
Well, this racetrack is so narrow in so many places that you really have to kind of pick and choose where you pass. As we watch the leader, Walter Royal, now opened out a little bit. Here comes Willie T. There's Scott Pruitt. Here's Hurley Haywood. And finally, Darren Brasfield rounding out the top 5.
In the 6th spot is the number 15 Oldsmobile of Irv Hare. Just behind him is the number 8 car, Les Ledley, the car owner for Willie T. Ripp. And we are right now riding with Chris Neifel in his Trans Am. He's in the 10th spot, and just in front of him, you can see the 9th place runner. That is number 16, Mike Sisuli.
Here they go through that corner onto Rainbow Boulevard, sweeping down through there and trying to pick up some speed. Here comes Chris, that big sweeping left-hander, max speed, probably right on 160 miles an hour. Looks like he's going to try to get inside Sisuli. Whether he does it or not, oh no, can't do it. Sisuli shuts the door on him as they head down 3rd Street. Now, they're heading into the very narrow and very tight part of this racetrack, so I'm sure that Chris is just going to have to bide his time from here on in, Steve.
He just ducks right in behind Sisuli, hoping that he has enough horsepower to get around him on a wider, straighter part of the racetrack.
Well, Steve, right behind Chris is Bruce Jenner, the Olympic decathlon champion, in the team car to Darren Brasfield's Corvette, the number 88 car. His 87 car is a Camaro. So those two guys are running as a team here as we watch Sisuli bounce and jounce his way through that 180-degree corner at the end of the pit straight.
There are some fairly substantial bumps on this circuit, as you'll find on just about any street course, because you've got manhole covers to deal with, pavement transitions. They're part of this course in the Convention Center parking lot. Again, we're with Chris Neifel in front of him, the number 16 Oldsmobile. Mike Sisuli. Neifel getting aggressive now, Brock. He'd like to have that 9th spot. Can't wait forever.
Well, he's got a shot coming up through that left-hander onto Niagara Street. This is a fairly long straightaway. Not too much, but enough perhaps where he can get underneath Sisuli. There is the trap speeds being shown here, as you can see, as they brake hard, still running about 83 miles an hour. There they go on to Rainbow Boulevard. Now, Neifel, remember, challenged here. This racetrack opens out here after that fast left-hander, and perhaps he can get by under hard braking. Here he goes down underneath. Remember, he challenged the last lap. Here goes Chris, and yes, he moves past Sisuli to take over that 9th spot.
A very clean pass. Sisuli saw him coming, knew he had more horsepower, and was braking better as well. It just didn't want to tangle this early in the going. So in the 9th spot now is our man with the camera, Chris Neifel. Tremendous competition for the 3rd spot there among 3 different manufacturers. Scott Pruitt in the Lincoln Mercury car, the blue number 1. There's Haywood in the Audi number 44, and getting just a bit loose is Darren Brasfield from Northern California in the Corvette. Well,
Darren's got a lot of short track experience and loves the slide race cars, so it'll be interesting to see how he works that rear drive Corvette against that four-wheel drive Audi. Of course, those Audis are supposed to have major advantages on short, tight circuits like this, but right now, Darren Brassfield has given Hurley all he asked for and then some.
Well, look at Pruitt stretch it out there. There you see the big power of the V8 over even the turbocharged Audi. Pruitt definitely has an advantage on Niagara straightaway and also now onto Rainbow.
Right, here they come onto that wider part of this racetrack, and Brassfield now trying to push up and make a move on HURLEY Haywood as they come through that fast left-hand sweeper. As we go back to the race for 8, that is Paul Gentilozzi, the Olds Cutlass in the number 7 car. Our man Chris Neifel, the onboard camera back there, right behind him. Gentilozzi won the first race of this series, Steve, and the Long Beach Trans Am race, and is running very well today.
And look at this. Here's Neifel pulling up alongside Gentilozzi. Gentilozzi in the number 7 car, and he's able to bend him off. Good job by Gentilozzi.
Well, these two are moving up on the number 8 Camaro, Steve. That is Les Lindley, car owner of Willie T. Ribbs. And both Gentilozzi and Neifel seem to be moving in on him.
Well, Brock, we're at the point in this 150 model that a lot of drivers are now starting to show their hand a bit, kind of throwing caution to the wind and trying to get some positions. I mean, that's basically what it's all about. And they both get by Lindley. And that pushes Lindley back 2 positions in one fell swoop.
Well, I think he's got some problems, Steve. He moved way out of the groove to let him through, so I would imagine Les has got some problems with that car. And down the pit straight they go. And look at this, Neifel diving underneath Gentilozzi in that hairpin at the end of the pit straight. Can he get underneath him? Yes, it's a drag race toward the S's, and Neifel moves into the 7th spot. So he's picked up 2 places here in the tightest part of this very difficult Niagara Falls course. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Dentine is so snappy and tingly, when you bite it, it bites you back. Same great tasting tingle freshens your breath. Dentine, the gum that bites you back.
Imagine doing this to your car. It's unthinkable. Yet some car waxes and polishes contain abrasives that can scratch your car. Introducing new Armor All Car Wax with no harsh abrasives, with a polishing ingredient so fine it won't scratch your car. Armor All Car Wax. It won't scratch.
Available at Kmart's across the USA.
A legend has been created. A better battery for the future. Better reserve power with up to 2 hours and 25 minutes. Better protection with a warranty backed by Napa that lasts over 6 years. The legend from Napa. A better battery.
For more than 40 years, Sports Car Club of America Professional Racing has provided millions of motorsports fans with the spectacle of Major League Motorsports. The tradition continues this year with more than 100 SCCA-sanctioned races across the country. Catch an SCCA weekend in your area soon.
TNN, the official network of the USO, presents The Judds.
Close your eyes and let it flow. Lean your head back and let it go. I know where I'm going. Don't you want to come too?
The Judds entertain the troops at Guantanamo Naval Base in Cuba on the USO Celebrity Tour. Thursday, July 14th at 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific on TNN.
This is Fort Niagara at the end of the Niagara River where it empties into Lake Ontario. And it has been the site of warfare for over 300 years. Occupied first by the French, then by the English, and then by the Americans. It was a site of battles in the French and Indian War, the Revolution, and the War of 1812. Today, it's a beautifully restored memorial to the days when muzzle-loading cannons and musket fire rattled around this area. This whole stretch of the Niagara River, Steve, has been the site of major warfare for years.
We got a little street fight going on right now on the circuit in downtown Niagara Falls, New York. Take a look at that. Darren Brassfield has gotten around the all-wheel drive Audi of HURLEY Haywood. There's the top 10.
And we see our man Chris Neifel still holding on to that 7th spot. Right in front of him is Irv Hare in yet another Oldsmobile Cutlass. So we've got 3 Oldsmobile Cutlasses in that second echelon, and all of which are very, very fast automobiles.
Well, the number 8 yellow Camaro, that is Laszlo Langley. He's in 9. Just behind him is the Olds number 16. That's Mike Ciasuli. Ciasuli is in the 10th position. Behind him is number 87, Bruce Jenner, doing a fine job considering he didn't even know he was going to drive that car the day before yesterday. Has very little wheel time. In 12th and 13th are a pair of rotary-powered buses. They'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, that's Roger Mandeville and Amos Johnson. We've seen those guys run for years in the IMSA GTU series, and they moved over to the Trans Am right now and doing a good job.
And there is Scott Pruitt, the blue number 1 car, the defending series champion. He is currently in that 3rd spot. Darren Brasfield is starting to show some muscle in that Corvette as it streaks by our camera. Pruitt and Darren Brasfield both grew up and started racing in Northern California. Scott Pruitt, by 1983, won so many go-karting championships, they dubbed him the King of Karts.
And what a future he's got. You talk to the guys at Ford Special Vehicle Operations, and they'll tell you that Scott Pruitt fits into virtually every segment of their plans.
Well, what a terrific battle between the Lincoln Mercury automobile of Pruitt and Darren Brasfield in the Corvette. And Brasfield has some pretty impressive credentials himself. Back in 1982, his rookie year in this series, he was voted the Rookie of the Year. He's competed in the 200-mile-an-hour GTP cars, and look at this, he is right on Scott Pruitt's bumper. And it is Brasfield here that may have the better line. Brasfield is inside. He forces Pruitt outside. Pruitt has no other way to go unless he wanted to make contact, and it's way too early for that. And look at Brasfield pull away, Brock.
Well, the indications are, Steve, that he was being held up a little bit by Scott, because once he got by him, he's really started to open it out as we watch him go from an aerial, go through that turn 5, down through turn 6, and heading toward that 4th Street 90-degree corner. Now, let's see what Darren does with that Corvette as they go on to Niagara Street, where the first big straightaway start. And look at this. He is opening out on Scott Pruitt in a big way.
And, Brock, this is the one part of the course that Pruitt ought to be able to stay with it, match horsepower with it. Oh, in fact, right there, you can see Scott did pull up. So the Ford V8, the Chevy V8 appear to be pretty equal there.
There's Hurley Haywood way back there in that 44 Audi as we watch Darren Brasfield just blow away from Scott Pruitt and start to move in on Willie T. Ribbs in the 2nd spot, Steve. So Darren Brasfield is starting to really roll here.
Yes, he is. And look at the smoke come off of that right front tire. This man is getting aggressive because he sees in front of him Willie T. Ribbs. Willie is in the 2nd spot. Brasfield closing in as they go under the convention center. Now, Willie T. has the Chevrolet V6. It is a V8 car for Darren Brasfield. But because of the rules, Brasfield's car is reasonably light, almost as light as Willie's. And a good deal lighter than Scott Pruitt's, which may have been the big advantage for Brasfield we saw earlier on when he got around Pruitt. And now he is slowly but surely kind of reeling in Willie T.
Absolutely, as they go down that short straight behind the pit straight through the S's, here is Darren Brasfield moving right in behind Willie T. Ribbs in that number 80 D6 Camaro.
Willie T. Ribbs from San Jose, California. Darren Brasfield, Los Gatos, just a few miles away. These two really grew up racing each other. They know each other's style and what they're capable of.
Here they go on to Niagara Street. As we said earlier, this is one of the 2 real straightaways here at Niagara Falls, and we'll see whether Darren can make it work. 98 miles an hour for those guys on that relatively short little straight as they squirt around the corner and head out onto Rainbow Boulevard, where if there is any place where raw speed will play to Darren Brasfield's advantage, it will be right here through that big left-handed sweeper. Now, diving underneath Willie T. He's got the line. He's going to take 2nd place.
Beautifully executed passes. Darren Brasfield and his 88 Corvette move into the 2nd spot. Only Walter Earl is ahead of him, but a pretty good distance out there.
Well, Willie T. Ribbs has got to be a little frustrated because he was holding on to a really solid 2nd place until all of a sudden Brasfield appeared out of nowhere.
Let's remember, though, this is a 150-mile race. You've got to pace the tires and the brakes on these cars, and that is something that maybe Pruitt and Willie are both doing now. Right now, let's go down to the pit area. Our partner, Paul Page, has a report on a car with some early problems already on pit wall. Oh?
Well, Scott Sharp's Nissan crew has fallen over the car, and Jim Coleman is the engine man. And as you can see, he's doing his work now. They've gotten down on top of the car. He gestured at first when they came in and said, it sounds like they've lost a cylinder. Scott Sharp had reported by radio that there was a loud bang on the main stretch, and then the car began slowing down. But obviously, they've not yet given up on this machine. They intend to make repairs. This is a very long race, but it also appears they're going to have a very long stop.
Well, it's a new opportunity for Scott Sharp, the son of team owner Bob Sharp, who's taken over the seat of Paul Newman, who normally drives this car. Paul on location shooting a movie. So Scott Sharp having a long afternoon of it so far.
There's a pretty good combat for the 8th position, the number 7 car there, the red and white machine. That's Paul Gentilozzi. Behind him, the yellow Camaro, Les Lindley. He's picked up the pace a bit in the last few minutes. And number 87, Bruce Jenner in that Camaro. I said earlier, Jenner did not have a lot of time in this car. Didn't even know he was going to drive it until a couple of days ago. But he is hanging right in there.
Bruce Jenner has turned into be a very good race driver over the years. He came into the sport just kind of a lark, running some of those celebrity races actually in Long Beach, California, prior to the Grand Prix out there, and got really hooked on it, and has now come around to a point where he is very, very effective behind the wheel of a car like this.
Well, it says a lot boring when he got the call when Jerry Brasfield, the father of Darren, couldn't drive that Camaro. He usually does. Had some business commitments, so team owner Tommy Morrison looked at the list of drivers available and called Bruce. Bruce is glad he got the call. He's having a good time.
So there, Gentilozzi leads Lindley. Right behind him, Bruce Jenner, and that little trio works their way underneath the convention center, heading down to complete one more lap here in this tight corner, heading onto Wendell Street, where the pit entrance is.
And a lot of fans got to be wondering if this might be the point in the race where something develops between Willie T. Ribbs in the number 80 Camaro and Scott Pruitt in the blue number 1 car. We talked about the difficulties those two have had earlier on.
Well, Steve, remember, too, the car, the 44 car right behind them was the benefactor of the last Ribbs-Pruitt get-together at Detroit, when, in fact, they knocked each other off the racetrack in the final lap, and the 44 car, driven by Hurley Haywood, came through to victory.
And that made Hurley the only 2-time winner so far this season. We saw him in victorious style at the Grand Prix of Dallas, and he struck from the very same position on the grid, back in that 3rd row.
Well, right now, Willie T is holding off Pruitt, but I wonder, Steve, whether or not he used up his brakes trying to run down Walter Roll in those early laps. Roll, of course, has moved out to a really commanding lead at this particular moment, but right now, the stage is set perhaps for yet another get-together between these two arch rivals. Stay with us.
How to lose 9 pounds in 3 weeks.
Her best friend's wedding was in just 3 weeks. Her dress was too tight. It sure looked bleak.
She tried new Ultra Slim Fast, a high-fiber shake.
With complete nutrition and a thick, rich taste. She had 1 for breakfast,
1 for lunch,
then a regular dinner.
Now she's 9 pounds thinner.
9 pounds in 3 weeks.
A recent clinical test with Ultra Slim Fast proved you can lose 9 pounds in 3 weeks.
So say goodbye to those too tight blues, yeah. Come on, you guys, hurry up!
You forgot your fortune cookie.
What?
So you think you know what Dirty Harry's up to? Well, take another look.
Welcome to the jungle!
Callahan, your name is on this list, too.
Time's up, Callahan. Dirty Harry just learned a new game. Clint Eastwood is Dirty Harry in The Deadpool. Rated R. Starts Friday, July 15th at a theater near you.
Sports Sundays. Follow racing's best on television's only series devoted exclusively to NASCAR competition. Former national champion and Hall of Fame driver Ned Jarrett and Steve Burns cover the NASCAR circuit to bring you race highlights, interviews with drivers and crews, and special inside features. You'll be on top of all the action that is NASCAR on Inside Winston Cup Racing. Sports Sundays at 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific on PNN.
Hi, I'm Dean Leith with good news for backyard gardeners. Troy-Bilt now makes a little garden tiller, especially for folks with smaller gardens. We call it the Pony. In spring, the Pony makes seedbed preparation a cinch. It's so easy to handle, you guide it with just one hand. In summer, the Pony cultivates in minutes what used to take hours by hand. Come fall, garden leftovers and leaves are quickly power composted, enriching your soil for next year's garden. You too can grow more and better tasting vegetables in your garden the Troy-Bilt way. This free Troy-Bilt catalog will start you on your way.
Special off-season savings are in effect now on all Troy-Bilt tiller models and attachments. So write or call for information and your free Troy-Bilt catalog. Call toll-free 1-800-468-2100. That's 1-800-468-2100. Operators are standing by.
Back at Niagara Falls, New York, where the water continues to race just almost as quickly as the race cars as it heads toward that big drop just above the American Falls. Here's some tourists heading across the bridge toward Goat Island, with just above the American Falls on the American side. That, by the way, is not the American Falls, Steve. Little trickle heading toward the big drop-off.
Well, as far as the race standings are concerned at this point, here they are. Walter Rural still out in front. Darren Brassfield, a nice move into second. Willie T. Ribbs, Scott Pruitt, Hurley Haywood. That's the top 5. Now, as we look at 6th through 10th, you'll notice a name is missing. Bruce Jenner in the number 87 Camaro. Well, while we were away, this happened on Niagara Street as they came down towards Rainbow. It was Bruce Jenner on the inside, the right-hand side of your screen, trying to get underneath Les Lindley in the number 8 Camaro. Now, this is off of Niagara, on to Rainbow, the left-hander. Bruce appeared to have a nice pass going, but he got in just a bit too hot, and there just were not enough brakes on the automobile to keep this from happening. Ouch.
He got it into that very unyielding concrete barrier and really did some damage to the right front side of that Camaro. So Bruce managed, though, to lift the car back to the pits, where currently his crew is unmasking a whole bunch of fiberglass.
Well, you know, Brock, they're not going to try to replace that. They're just going to get everything off of there and try to make it as safe as possible and send him back out onto the racetrack. So Bruce Jenner will be in what will look a lot like a super modified when the crew gets done. Right now, let's go to Paul with Scott Sharp.
Well, now you're in the seat for Paul Newman. How are you going to explain what you did to his car?
I don't know. He's probably going to be mad, but I guess it could have happened to him, too.
Let's hope he's not. You did a nice job for the time you were in.
Oh, thank you.
Scott Sharp, out early.
Well, what happened to the car, Scott Sharp had absolutely no control over. A connecting rod broke in that 6-cylinder Nissan motor, and when that happens, you're done for the day in any form of motor racing.
Well, there's Paul Gentilozzi and Les Lindley now running without their old compatriot as we see 97 miles an hour on that relatively short straight as Gentilozzi heads out onto Rainbow Boulevard, followed by Lindley. Remember now, these two guys were in a mix-up with Bruce Jenner until Bruce had to exit to the pit for a little disrobing of that Camaro of his.
Paul Gentilozzi was a pro stock drag racer, got into road racing, and it only took him about, well, 3 years, really, to win his first title. That came at Long Beach this year, the opening round of the Trans Am. So he's still in the hunt for the overall series title. Only one driver has 2 victories. We mentioned Hurley Haywood. Here's the race for 3rd. Willie T. Ribbs, the number 80 Camaro. Scott Pruitt just behind him, and Hurley Haywood. Apparently, Willie's car is handling reasonably decent, Brock. That was a question mark going in after his shunt with the wall this morning.
Well, yeah, he has had a go at Walter Rural in the early stages and gave up second place to Darren Brassfield, but now seems to be able to hold off Scott Pruitt, and right behind him, of course, Hurley Haywood in the 44 car. Willie T. Ribbs running in 3rd place here at Niagara Falls, sweeping through that little sharp left-hander, heading down underneath the convention center, and now onto Wendell Street, and just about to complete yet another lap here on this very tight, very difficult Niagara Falls circuit.
Well, Willie T. Ribbs is so strong physically, Brock, that even if the car's not perfect, he can sometimes make up for that. He's the fittest driver in the field, no question about that. Look at Hurley Haywood, came right up, almost tagged the rear of Scott Pruitt.
Well, there's no question that the tactics of the Audi team is to let Rural act as the rabbit, to run out, just break everybody if possible, and let Haywood sit back and kind of move through the field with that very reliable, so far at least, Audi.
You know, the talk among all the drivers before the race this morning was not whether there would be a full course caution because of an accident, but how many would come in this race. So far, 0, and that is maybe going to upset some of the strategies being played out here. And in a race of this distance, a pit stop will be required. Everybody wants to make it under yellow if they possibly can. Remember, if a full course yellow comes out, it allows guys like Scott Pruitt, Willie T. to catch back up to Walter Rural. But so far, no cigar. You just saw Willie T. clocked at 92 miles an hour, making that turn off of Niagara onto Rainbow, the fastest we've seen so far. Right now, Brock is with a special guest, the mayor of Niagara Falls, Michael O'Loughlin.
Mayor, I guess I often wonder what the reaction of a civic leader is when the first man comes to you and says, hey, I got an idea about running a race through your streets. What does a mayor of a big city normally say when that happens?
Like hell. Except that in a city like Niagara Falls, I think you have to continually try new things. We feel we're sort of an exciting place to come to. There's the beauty of the falls. That's a great attraction. But you also need those little extras to help bring people and encourage them. Most people need an excuse to go someplace, good, bad, or otherwise. And I think this here race, the Grand Prix, is a great reason, not just an excuse, to come to Niagara Falls, see the falls if they wish and the attractions here, but also enjoy great racing. It's exciting. It's tremendously exciting. It's been great.
Oh, that's great, Mayor. Now, the question is, are we going to see more racing in Niagara Falls?
I expect that June the 11th and 12th, you'll see just as good an event or better next year, and we expect them to be here the next 5 years.
Terrific. Well, the best of luck, and thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Well, two guys on our team, I'm sure, would like to express their thanks to Mayor O'Loughlin and all of his people here in Niagara Falls. That is Galen Holloway, our chief engineer, and Don Plaggett, the video guy. Believe me, when you put 23 cameras in here, as they have done with miles of cable, you need all the help you can get from the civic officials. Thanks again, Mayor.
Well, there is your leader. We haven't watched him for a while because he's been running alone, basically. Walter Ruhl from Regensburg, West Germany, three-time World Rally Champion, one of the finest drivers in the business. Doesn't do too much road racing, and when Joe Hoppen, the leader of the Audi racing operation in the United States, said he was going to put together a team, one of the first choices was Walter Ruhl, and he is proving Hoppen's confidence with each passing lap.
For that third position, the standings are unchanged. Three cars running in a train. The yellow Camaro of Willie T. Ribbs, the Lincoln Mercury XR8 car of Scott Pruitt, and number 44, Hurley Haywood. Hurley staying right, I believe, Brock, where he wants to be at this point in the race.
Yeah, it's very possible, Steve. He might like to be able to move past both Willie and Scott and get that car up into third spot. But right now, though, it becomes a battle of attrition, whether or not those heavier, more powerful tubular chassis automobiles of Scott Pruitt and Willie T. Ribbs, the brakes will hold out, the transmissions. There's an awful lot of gear changing, awful lot of hard braking on this Niagara Falls circuit. So who's to know what's going to happen? Attrition has been amazingly low, though, so far.
Oh, yeah, everybody is looking for a yellow flag, and they have not yet had one. And speaking of shifting, it is Walter Ruhl and Hurley Haywood doing the most of that. Those are 6-speed transmissions in those Audis. They shift twice as much as anybody else.
You can hear Walter and, oh, here comes Bruce Jenner back in again with that super modified Camaro, the whole nose gone. Of course, on a racetrack like this, aerodynamics are not a major factor. You're not running the speeds that will make the big difference as they change once more the right front. And Bruce Jenner going to get back into it with that modified Camaro of his. Stay with us. We'll be back at Niagara Falls.
Dodge Ram 100, the best full-size pickup buy in America. $1,400 less than a comparable Ford F-150. Only $88.53. But it's got to be right. It's got to be a Dodge.
To those who fearlessly accept the challenge of car care, Kmart dedicates the following. A solid brass engine oil drain valve at the everyday low price of $9.97. You can't lose at the Auto Center. At Kmart, the saving place and more.
This pitcher holds 2.3 pounds of water. That's what's trapped in your body tissue before and during your period. So I take Aquaban, clinically proven to get rid of water bloat and puffiness. And I feel a lot better.
Aquaban can help you get rid of the bloat. Over 28 million adults get athlete's foot.
I'm Jim Bird. I had athlete's foot until I used NP27. It has an ingredient recommended by doctors.
Look, NP27 stops the burning, itching of athlete's foot fast.
NP27. Nothing's a better cure for athlete's foot.
Lafitte, Louisiana and Old Milwaukee both mean something great to these guys. Lafitte means flat-bottom boat racing and a Cajun feast that'll set your mouth on fire. And Old Milwaukee means a great beer, cold, crisp, Old Milwaukee beer and smooth, golden Old Milwaukee Light.
There's nothing like the flavor of a special place, an Old Milwaukee beer.
Old Milwaukee and Old Milwaukee Light.
It doesn't get any better than this.
For more than 40 years, Sports Car Club of America Professional Racing has provided millions of motorsports fans with the spectacle of Major League Motorsports. The tradition continues this year with more than 100 SCCA-sanctioned races across the country. Catch an SCCA weekend in your area soon.
The mid-size Dodge Dakota 4x4 with standard V6 power, Ranger, and S10 charge extra for. And now package savings up to $1,000 more. When it's got to be right, it's got to be a Dodge.
Nothing in nature is more powerful than when she has her way with water. Consider that about 12,000 years ago, give or take a century, The Niagara Falls were 7 miles further down the Niagara River. So there is a constant evolutionary process going on here as the falls continue to erode the rock from the top to the bottom.
Well, while we were away, we haven't had much erosion here in the standings in the Niagara Falls Grand Prix. Walter Rohr continues to dominate as Bratsfield, Ribb, Pruitt, and Haywood round up the top 5. Mike Zasuli in 10th. And we've got our man Chris Neifel still riding along in the 7th spot, Steve, but relatively isolated from the rest of the field.
Well, I think the question on Chris Neifel's mind and just about everybody in this field right now, Brock, is they've got to be thinking, wait a minute, I'm going to have to make a pit stop here somewhere. If I ever see any yellow flags, I'll dash in and do it. But what if I have to go into green? And what is the window there that I can get in and get out and have enough tires and brakes and fuel to go the distance after the stop?
Well, right now we've got green all the way around this racetrack. It's been amazingly safe. Other than that little shunt that we saw Bruce Gunner have, it's been a very clean race. There is Paul Gentilozzi in the Oldsmobile Cutlass riding in the 8th spot. Well, you can see that his trap speed as he brakes, that of course is under hard braking, about 10 miles an hour slower than what we saw Willie T. Ribbs record a little bit earlier.
And as far as Willie T. Ribbs is concerned, well, there he is. You just saw him go through, and then a yellow number 80 Camaro, Scott Pruitt, and Hurley Haywood. These three just continue to stay almost arm's length from each other.
As they head down toward that little right-hander on 4th Street, and now we'll move out onto Niagara Street, the second fastest straightaway here.
And Willie and the rest now closing in on some lap cars. Number 9, Jerry Clinton, he's in the 16th spot, a lap down. And we see the trap speed much slower there. That's because those cars racing good third are having to slow down rather than run to the back of Clinton. Deborah Gregg is also in there in the number 3 XR4 TI. She's in the 15th spot, also a lap down.
Well, right now, Clinton has moved out of the way to let both Pruitt and Ribbs by, but Hurley Haywood is now trying to get by Clinton. There you see Haywood coming down to the end of Rainbow Boulevard, trying to get underneath Clinton, but Clinton in the number 9 Oldsmobile shuts the door on Haywood, so Haywood is now falling back a little bit in that 5th spot, but remember now, he was trying to hang right on Pruitt's bumper, and now he's got Clinton in the way, and now in a very, very tight section of the racetrack, it's going to be difficult for Haywood to catch up, which is going to give Pruitt and Ribbs a chance to break out a little bit here. So Jerry Clinton out of Maryland Heights, Missouri, is maybe just holding up Hurley Haywood just a little bit, although he's running his own race and trying to run as quickly as he can. But Clinton again shuts the door in that hairpin corner at the end of the pit straight. Hurley Haywood down low, heading up toward the S's. He is now getting a little bit impatient. Got on the brakes there hard, which he normally doesn't have to do. But remember now, Clinton is in a race with Deborah Gregg in that black number 3 for 15th and 16th spot. As we see Hurley Haywood now dive underneath as they head on at 4th Street. So he does move past Clinton and begins to get a little open air now. Up ahead of him, though, Deborah Gregg, and I'm sure Deborah will probably move out of the way. She'll see in her rearview mirror that the faster cars are coming up.
Look at this. It's Hurley going around Willie T. Ribbs. Willie is slowing. There is Clinton on the inside of him. He's even going to go around, and he's one of the lap cars. There is something mechanically wrong with that automobile. No question.
Well, he's going to have to limp it back to the pits, in fact, if he can make it. As we watch Hurley Haywood move in on Deborah Gregg, she slides out of the groove, lets Haywood through. As we now see Willie T. Ribbs move into the picture and running very slowly, literally limping his way toward pit lane. So we will see him, no doubt, get into the pits, and his crew will get that hood up right away to see if they can sort things out.
Well, suddenly the car appears to be moving again at a pretty good rate of speed.
Which makes me wonder, Steve, whether or not it might have jumped out of gear, maybe transmission problems that now Willie has gathered it up again. Certainly going to head, though, for the pits as his crew will check out that number 80 Les Lindley-owned Camaro, driven by the man who started second on the grid, Willie T. Ribbs. Obviously disappointed right now.
Well, as Willie moves down the pit road, the crew is already over the wall waiting for him. They'll try certainly to fix this automobile. Paul Page is down there.
And here is Willie Ribbs into the pits. His crew chief, Pat McCall, has a quick conversation with Willie, and now crew members jump everywhere looking for tools. Apparently, Willie will stay with the car. Whatever it is appears to be repairable. But now Willie Ribbs shuts the engine down while the crew goes to work on the car.
Okay, so that essentially takes Willie T. Ribbs out of contention here because pit stop of this length is absolutely fatal to any chances to win, especially with the way Walter Rural is running and dominating the event right now.
And there is Walter Rural. So far, a flawless performance. Just in front of him is Les Lindley, teammate car owner for Willie T. Ribbs. Rural trying to put him a lap down. And obviously, when Lindley goes by the pits, he's not going to like seeing that yellow car. He owns parked there.
He sure isn't. And right now, Walter Rural just kind of sitting back there, letting Les lead the way down Niagara Street because he dominates right now, doesn't have to hurry to stay out front. Stay with us for more of the SCCA Escort Trans Am.
Snake River, Wyoming and Old Milwaukee both mean something great to these guys. The Snake River means fly fishing for lunker cutthroat trout. And Old Milwaukee means a great beer. Cold, crisp Old Milwaukee beer. And smooth, golden Old Milwaukee Light.
There's nothing like the flavor of a special place. An Old Milwaukee beer.
Old Milwaukee and Old Milwaukee Light.
Fellas, it just doesn't get any better than this.
Robert De Niro is bringing Charles Grodin into custody.
They can't fly. They also suffer from acrophobia and claustrophobia.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you don't cooperate, you're going to suffer from fistophobia.
It could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
You are the dumbest bounty hunters I've ever seen!
From the director of Beverly Hills Cop.
Come on, cigarettes are killers.
Midnight Run. Rated R.
Just relax.
I'm totally relaxed. Special sneak previews Saturday night.
Introducing the Ladder Saddle, the revolutionary new super caddy that works on your ladder as well as off. Washing windows, the Ladder Saddle's 3 large compartments keep everything you need within easy reach. Tackling a big paint job? Use the front bucket as a paint tray. The specially designed lip transfers paint to a roller in a jiffy. Or use the Ladder Saddle as a tool caddy. The side holster pocket positions your drill perfectly, while the rear bucket tool station keeps your screwdrivers and pliers ready for use. Notice the 2 smaller pockets, ideal for nuts and bolts. Use your Ladder Saddle off a ladder too, when you dust. Or fix your car. The Ladder Saddle fits virtually all extension ladders and step ladders. The Ladder Saddle. It's so versatile, so easy to use. Here's how to order.
To order Ladder Saddle, use your credit card and call 1-800-238-9300. That's 1-800-238-9300. Or save COD and send $14.95 plus $3 postage and handling to Ladder Saddle, care of TV Offer, P.O. Box 10030, Stamford, Connecticut. That's Ladder Saddle, care of TV Offer, P.O. Box 10030, Stamford, Connecticut.
If you're into chasing rainbows, there's no better place to do it than Niagara Falls. And that is the classic view of the Horseshoe Falls on the Canadian side of the Niagara River. Just a sight that just never wears out, Brock.
And a permanent member of one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. Of course, back in Niagara Falls at the Grand Prix on the American side, we're watching Walter Rural continue to dominate here. Darren Brasfield holding on in the 2nd spot. Chris Neifel having moved up into 6th. Amos Johnson, a new entrant, into the top 10 as he runs along in the 10th spot.
And from our helicopter, that is really a neat shot as you see him running just under the roof line of the convention center here in Niagara Falls, New York. Of course, the big battle heating up right now is for that 3rd spot between Scott Pruitt, the number 1, the blue machine right there, and number 44, Hurley Haywood. Now you see 93 miles an hour. That is the speed of Scott Pruitt as he comes onto Rainbow, and you saw the much slower speed of the number 10 car, Jerry Kuhn, as he was being lapped. Now here is Pruitt. Now Kuhn is between Pruitt and Hurley Haywood right now. That's good for Scott, and it could be bad for Hurley if he can't get around him on the wide section of Rainbow here. It could hold it. He is going to get around. Beautiful pass by Hurley Haywood in the Audi.
As Jerry Kuhn moves out of the way to let him through. So the battle for 3rd continues. Of course, the man who was in it, Willie T. Ribbs, is now parked in the pit. Let's go to Paul for an update.
Well, this is Willie Ribbs' problem. This is the handle on his gear shift lever. And he's apparently been shifting with such force that as he's thrown it forward and backwards, it's broken off. As a result, they're now trying to change it and get a new one in there so he can shift gears. But of course, while he's here, as you can see, the crew working on the car, he's losing a great deal of time in the pits.
Well, I hope they found a stronger shift handle because Willie T. Ribbs is an iron pumper from way back. Tremendous upper body strength. Walter Rules is also tremendously strong, even though he's tall and very thin. Anyone that can run those rallies that go for days and days across continents. Look at the speed on Walter Rules as he goes into Rainbow, 116 miles per hour. He has not turned the wick down one bit.
Well, that's 18 miles an hour faster than the last fastest speed that
Scott Pruitt put up. So Roll is running very hard, as you can see, virtually unchallenged. The car is really the fastest on the track without any question. He qualified a second faster than Willie T. But a lot of people thought, well, Walter's going to run real hard, and then maybe he's going to break. But boy, there's no sign of that car weakening at all.
And just behind the number 79 lap car of Robert Ripple, that is the race for the 10th position between a pair of Mazda automobiles. Number 18, Amos Johnson, and 10th, number 83, Roger Mandeville, in the 11th spot. Even though these two guys try to outrun each other always on the racetrack, in the pits they're very good friends and confidants. It was yesterday that Amos Johnson came up to Roger Mandeville. It was tremendously hot yesterday, record in the 90s. He was having problems with the machine, described it to Mandeville, and Mandeville said, your fuel is boiling. And that's exactly what it was. He cooled the fuel down and stopped the problem.
Well, it would take a racing veteran from a place like Spartanburg, South Carolina, to be able to figure out boiling fuel. But Roger is a kind of a newcomer to the Trans Am, and earlier Steve had a look.
Roger Mandeville, in his number 83 Mazda RX-7 with rotary power, is an invited guest of the Sports Car Club of America today. He is, of course, a regular on the IMSA GTO circuit. He's always wondered how the Mazda would fare in Trans Am, and they've been curious as well. So on a one-race-only basis, they've allowed him not to meet some of the Trans Am rules. For example, you see how the body is tucked in here? Well, that's usually a no-no in Trans Am. They require it to come out to the outside of the front tire. But there are some things that he had to do, such as remove the side windows, which are legal in GTO and IMSA, not in Trans Am. Also, he had to shorten the rear wing. He could make it just a little bit wider, but it's definitely down in height. Also, in IMSA, they run wide open underneath the back window here. You can see he's had to add an aluminum kind of a package tray over all of those components. Now, it'll be interesting to see how the Mazda fares. It's a very fast car. It likes long straightaways. In fact, it can hit a speed of 195 miles an hour. But it has kind of a weird torque curve as compared to a V8 or a V6. It doesn't have a lot of torque, as a matter of fact, off of the tight corners. So it'll be just interesting to see how Roger fares today as an invited guest.
Well, there you see the 44 Audi of Hurley Haywood putting a lap on Roger Mandeville and on Amos Johnson as they continue to battle for that 10th spot. Those Mazdas, as Steve said, run very well on the longer circuits as Roger Mandeville blows past Amos Johnson to take over that 10th position. So Mandeville may be starting to get that Mazda to work a little bit better on this very tight, very demanding racetrack.
Well, it's very happy on the long straightaways, not quite so in the tight turns. And Willie T is coming out of the car. It looks like his day is done. The broken shifter apparently could not be repaired. Willie T has unplugged his radio and is out of the car.
That's a tough break and a very ironic way to lose a race car just with a little tiny component like that. But obviously, on a racetrack like this, if you don't have the shifter working, you might as well park it.
All right, this is for the 6th spot. Here's our man with the camera, Chris Neifel, in the number 72 car. Ahead of him is Paul Gentilozzi, the number 7 Oldsmobile Cutlass. Neifel on the gas, trying to get up and take that spot away from Gentilozzi.
Well, the windshield is now really starting to get covered either with oil and fluids coming out of his engine compartment or perhaps from Gentilozzi's. But whatever it is, Chris is having some problems seeing, especially as he runs on the sunnier parts of this racetrack where the glare is becoming almost impossible. But that's just part of the price of doing business in a race car, that a lot of guys have to get used to seeing through the bugs and the oil and the generally smeared glass in front of you.
Weekdays, there's something for everyone on TNN. Catch the hottest new videos. Follow the comings and goings of your favorite stars. Meet tomorrow's talented newcomers. You can even get tips on how to put more life in your lifestyle with some help from the experts on TNN's entertaining and informative American magazine. And if you're into stargazing, then you're in the right place, because when Ralph Emery rolls out the welcome mat, the stars really shine on Nashville Now. Something for everyone. A good reason why more people are watching TNN.
Only Auto Week, the news weekly of motoring, makes cars come alive every week. GTs, sports sedans, collector cars, 4x4s, front drivers. And Auto Week makes racing come alive every week. Formula One, sports cars, stockers. Auto Week brings it home fast, days after the race. Auto Week makes you an insider with industry news, personality profiles, columnists, the best classified anywhere. Let Auto Week, the news weekly of motoring, make cars come alive for you. Call 1-800-722-7000 to get Auto Week at our special discount price. Just $17.25 for 52 issues. Only 33 cents a week. You'll save 74% off the cover price, 25% off the basic rate. Call now. 1-800-722-7000. Let Auto Week make cars come alive for you every week.
What appears to be a very innocent little babbling brook is really a part of one of the most powerful falls in all the world, the American Falls here in Niagara Falls, New York. And Brock, I'm told that that falls has the power of 2 million drive-through car washes.
And that same guy told you the Brooklyn Bridge was for sale, right?
I got an option on it.
All right. This man has an option on victory here at Niagara Falls. We're not sure, but Walter Rook continues to dominate in just incredible fashion as Darren Brasfield tries to hang on. The only 2 cars on the lead lap here as the race unfolds between Scott Pruitt and Hurley Haywood for the 3rd spot.
Well, there's one young man who wishes his name were still on that leaderboard, that being Willie T. Ribbs, who broke the shift handle off of his Camaro. Paul Page is in the pits with Willie.
Well, it's the end of a long, frustrating day for Willie T. Ribbs. Finally just broke the gear shift off in your hand?
Yeah, the gear shift lever broke snap off. It must have been a weak part of the metal.
And then you brought a new one in, and it looked like you were going to make repairs. What constitutes this decision not to go back?
The new one would not fit. And we were so many laps behind, it was not even worth going out there and trashing the car for nothing.
The course itself, while you were running, is it fit? Are you in good shape?
Oh, the car was not working at all. The car worked great on right-hand corners, but on left-hand corners which side the damage was on, no good.
Well, we're sorry to see you out so early, Willie.
And we've got more trouble in the pits. Let's go to Steve with Chris Neifel in our camera car.
Well, guys, this crew is going about servicing number 72, Chris Neifel's Trans Am, as if there was nothing wrong with it. But I got to tell you, the engine sounds terrible. And inside the car, Neifel, you can see him inside. He's saying, guys, let's get going. He's clapping his hands, doing a little cheerleading for the crew. They had the hood partially up. Whether they found anything or not is tough to tell. We'll know by the sound of that motor when it leaves if they've cured the problem. Let's listen.
Well, Steve, I don't think he has. It sounds as if that engine is just as ragged as it was when he came in. As Chris Neifel gets back underway, takes that 180-degree corner and gets back onto the racetrack, but he's still got problems, in my opinion.
Talk about your narrow pit exit. You've got to be every bit as careful there as you do anywhere out on the racetrack. And here is the Paul Gentilozzi number 7 car. Now, I would think that this is a planned stop for that team. It's about time for it.
Well, it started as a routine stop for Paul Gentilozzi, but now it seems to be more than that as the crew works at the right rear of the car. Gentilozzi was running 7th when he came in here. Now frustrated, he sits in the cockpit, continues to rev the engine as they try and get the car operating. Now apparently satisfied that whatever was wrong at the right rear can be raced, they make a move to the right front, and tires being changed there as well.
So the troubles mount for Paul Gentilozzi. He was running in the 6th spot and then was passed by Les Lidley just before he made his stop, which could possibly be the source of his trouble, Steve.
Well, the last time around, Darren Brasfield crew showed him the pit sign. So the number 88 Corvette, currently running 2nd, is going to be coming into the pit. Darren, the line's up. Yes, sir. This should be interesting to watch. Brasfield, an excellent team run by Tommy Morrison and a crew that has a lot of experience in all different forms of racing. Boy, does he come in hot.
Well, he's going to have to come in hot because any time they waste air is just more and more costly for him because Rural continues to just sail around this racetrack. And the pressure is maintained for his crew. There, the windshield being cleaned off. At the back, one of the 2 11-gallon NASCAR-type dump cans is being used to apply fuel. Probably take another one as soon as that's done. There goes Darren heaving a glass of water or whatever out of the cockpit. And look at this, Steve. That is the 44 Audi Turbo of Hurley Haywood, and he appears to have slowed down.
That's right. It started to slow on Dugan Street. Hurley Haywood is limping this car around here now, Brock. The seemingly unbreakable Audi, well, one of them is broken. Darren wants out of the pits. He's saying, I'll drive with the dirty windshield. Don't worry about it. He is a young man in a hurry, Brock.
Well, he gets impatient, as all race drivers do, but of course the crewmen trying as hard as they can to hurry through their job. So he's underway, and in the meantime, let's go to Paul, who's in the Audi pits.
And here comes HURLEY Haywood as he rolls to a stop after on the course slowing without explanation. And they have decided, Grant Weaver, the rest of the team, that the hood has to come off. HURLEY Haywood is gesturing frantically that he wants a clean windshield as well, as now they begin to work on the front of the car, and they're going to take a look at the engine on this machine.
And the language being spoken in that pit right now is German. Almost all of those crewmen are from Germany. They'll be going back after another race or two. It'll be up to the American team then to take over the leadership on the automobile. Look at them just swarming all over that car, apparently unable right away to determine what's wrong. And here comes Scott Pruitt. Pruitt, who is in the third spot. This is a planned stop. Pruitt in the third position when he came off the racetrack, but remember, he is a lap down. Now, here's the Jack Roush crew. There's none better in all of this type of racing at performing very quick pit stops. Look at the tires going on, fuel going in, and let's again go back down to the pits and check in with Paul Page.
Apparently, there has been a fitting that has come loose down at the back of the engine and allowed hydraulic fluid to seep out, and working at the edge of that hot engine, made doubly hot by the presence of turbochargers, they are trying to get that fitting closed, as at the same time, the leader of the race, Walter Rule, comes into the pits. Now, this is a crowded situation. Rule is right at the back of his teammate's car. And again, it is Grant Weaver, who is chiefing both cars, that moves over and now gestures Walter Rule out on what appeared to be a routine stop for the leader.
Well, as Walter was in the pit, you saw the blue car streak behind him on pit road. That was Scott Pruitt, who got back out of the racetrack and has unlapped himself.
So, by all means, this race is very much tighter than it was, as the leader, Walter Rule, gets back underway. But he has not been able to maintain that full one-lap lead over Scott Pruitt, who can become a major factor now.
What a series of pit stops can do. Darren Brasfield has fallen back to third, still on the lead lap. Herb Harris on the lead lap because he hasn't pitted yet, and Scott Pruitt, with an excellent effort, is back up there on the same lap as the leader, Walter Rule. We'll be back to Niagara Falls.
We quit smoking.
Well, I'm not smoking. And I didn't think anybody could do that.
15,000 cigarettes a year times 35 years.
So I've been smoking for 45 years. It's the easiest thing in the world to quit. I've done it 1,000 times.
Cigarette helps you break the nicotine addiction, and it works in as little as 7 days.
I smoked 43 years. I quit just like that.
I thought I was just going to go nuts wanting a cigarette. I never did. I was just wonderful.
5 packs a day for a while. I'm doing great now.
She bought it and said, try it, and I reluctantly, half-heartedly tried it. But it was so easy that just breezed through it.
Didn't have the urge to eat anymore.
As a matter of fact, I lost about 2 pounds.
No way did I want to gain weight, and I was.
When they offered that money-back guarantee, I thought I just have to try it.
No matter how much you smoke, no matter how long you've been smoking, with cigarettes, you'll quit or your money back. Guaranteed. All for hundreds of dollars less than other major programs.
On the other programs, I guess I spent around $2,500 to $3,000.
When you think of the price, it's just amazing.
Think of what you can do with $1,000.
Well, I figured it up at 25 cents a pack, and I could have bought 2 of the homes that I live in now.
And without smoking, we've got a few more years to go together.
Tell them to do what I did, just order it.
I'd say pick up that phone like I did and call the toll-free number.
Order your cigarettes now. Call 1-800-453-1600. With the cigarettes program, you're guaranteed to stop smoking in as little as 7 days without withdrawal, without gaining weight, and without spending hundreds of dollars. To save COD fees, have your credit card ready and call toll-free 1-800-453-1600 or send $19.95 plus $4 postage and handling to Cigarettes, Box 4444, Carlsbad, California, 92008. Or call toll-free 1-800-453-1600 now.
From the time that a priest named Father Hennepin first saw Niagara Falls in the late 1600s, It has been a source of fascination for virtually everybody that comes here. There you see part of the rapids as they lead toward the edge of the Horseshoe Falls from one of the three sister islands in the middle of the river. But right now, we're back to racing here at Niagara Falls. I'm Brock Yates along with Steve Evans and Paul Pate, and Walter Rowe continues to dominate, Steve.
But in these closing laps, he has three other cars on that lead lap, that being Irv Hare, Darren Brassfield, and Scott Pruitt. Everybody else is at least one lap down. Let's again go down to the pit area and Paul Page.
Well, now for Hurley Haywood, finally there is good news. Nope, it appears not, as he's having trouble getting the car in gear now. They fired the engine, but he cannot force the engine to come into gear. And again, the engine is shut down as Hurley Haywood's troubles continue.
And more so, this will hurt his points lead. He was leading the series championship up to this event, and this clearly will interfere with that, and also will prevent any chance of a 1-2 finish for Audi. As we watch an aerial view of Darren Brassfield in the number 88 Corvette heading down Rainbow Boulevard at speed. This car has been strong all day. Brassfield started 6th, worked his way into the 2nd spot, now has fallen back to 3rd just due to a pit stop, but running very strongly. Earlier, Steve had a look at this car.
Brakes and tires, two of the most important aspects in Trans Am racing, especially on the tight street circuits. The lighter the car, the farther both of those things are going to go, which is why a number of the GM competitors run V6 engines. The car is allowed to weigh considerably less. Now, Darren Brassfield, with his Corvette, did not have a V6 available to him. So the story up in the front of this car, it is still a V8 engine, but they have removed the fuel injection and gone to a carburetor under that air cleaner. That allows them to remove 75 pounds of weight. Internally, in this V8 motor, it is low compression, 9.5 to 1. That's worth about another 225 pounds. So by going to this particular combination, they've eliminated 300 pounds off the car, hoping for better brake and better tire mileage. And the 9-to-1 motor can be a bit more reliable. The only thing that they lack here is that they can't get the engine set back like the V6 for a little better handling. Next season, Darren will have the option of a V8 or a V6.
Well, right now, it's working perfectly for him as we watch him open out. That is Scott Pruitt way back there in that Mercure V8, kind of modified hot rod that he's running. But then again, Steve, we're finding all sorts of odd engine and drivetrain combinations in this kind of racing.
Oh, for sure. It's just a little gamesmanship early between the racers and the SCCA officials. The racers trying to find a distinctive edge and the officials trying to equalize competition. Now, we are back again riding with Chris Neifel-Brock, and he has apparently given it up. This car is just coasting and is going to come, I believe, to a stop. He's out of it.
As he heads up through the hay bales and down an escape road, he's going to have to park it. A tough wreck. We see, obviously, steam coming out of the engine compartment and into the cockpit. So, Steve, he's just going to have to say goodbye. It was a good, strong run for Chris Neifel. Unfortunately, we can see the helmet coming off, and no doubt, very unhappy young man.
You know, we talked earlier about the engine sounding sour. I found out, Brock, that that was a broken header on the car. It wasn't affecting the performance, just the sound. But broken headers can do strange things and may be a part of this problem ultimately.
I would imagine that it perhaps burned a valve. Here we've got the 88 car of Darren Brassfield in the pit. Looks like a routine tire change, but things are going a bit slowly there. A lot of guys working around the car. Looks like right side rubber is going on, but not a particularly fast stop. That is Irv Hare coming in as well in the 15 Oldsmobile Cutlass. Remember, he was as high as 2nd.
That's right, and this is his first pit stop. Darren Brassfield, of course, had wanted to race to the checker after that one long stop. They've had some kind of a tire problem with that car. But for Irv Hare, he just ran it almost out of fuel to stay out there on the lead lap. This may put him down one.
Well, you can see both of the Oldsmobiles in the pits right now. But here goes Darren Brassfield underway and has fallen back to the 4th spot. But let's see what happens to Irv Hare. If they can make a good quick pit stop, he will stay up among the leaders. He's underway. That should hold on to that 3rd spot for him at least.
Irv Hare from a wonderful racing family out of Indiana. His father, Rudy, is the crew chief. They started in the Kelly American Challenge, won a lot of races, and it moved into a bit more sophisticated car. There is the tire that is off of Darren Brassfield's Corvette. That is what forced him back into the pits, and you can see they made some contact with something. Look at the Goodyear is just about worn off the side.
Yeah, that certainly was that's a scuff on there that must have been involved in some kind of a problem out on the racetrack as the Goodyear tire engineer checks over the left. Here is number 8, Les Lindley coming in, and that is not a routine stop. He had already stopped once before. They're going to put a dash of fuel on board, but the crew is now trying to remove the hood on that Camaro, Steve.
Well, you can see the hood was loose when he came down pit lane. Apparently, he was afraid of it flying off, or maybe SCCA was afraid of it flying off. You can see the whole front end on that car is really not together as a unit. It is just about worn out. And here is Walter Earls in the Audi. He is the leader, of course, and has been since we first saw the green flag. Walter Earls, just an incredible performance. Walter Earls is going into the pits, Brock. Earls is in for the second time.
This is a surprise. Is it a scheduled stop or is there trouble? Let's go down to Paul Page in the Rural pit.
Well, here comes the leader of the race, Walter Earl, in what should be a very quick stop for fuel only. They didn't get as much fuel as they wanted in the last stop, and so now they come in, they splash just a few gallons of fuel into the car, and Walter Earl keeps the lead and heads back into the fight.
He indeed keeps the lead with only 8 laps to go, and that is not good news for the man in the blue #1 car. Scott Pruitt in the second position, but now Walter Earls has plenty of fuel to finish this race. Stay with us from Niagara Falls.
Racing on the water, just you and me. Running wild, running free. Run, 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 Kawasaki.
Jet Ski Watercraft by Kawasaki. The ultimate water pistol.
Fly across the water on a jumping jet. Kawasaki gets the good times wet. Fun, 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 Kawasaki.
See your local Kawasaki dealer today.
Black Rock, Nevada, and Old Milwaukee both mean something great to these guys. Black Rock means land sailing, riding the wind across dry desert lakes. And Old Milwaukee means a great beer, cold, crisp Old Milwaukee beer, and smooth, golden Old Milwaukee Light.
There's nothing like the flavor of a special place, and Old Milwaukee beer.
Old Milwaukee and Old Milwaukee Light.
You know, guys, it doesn't get any better than this.
When it crunches, that's why I love Nestle Crunch Milk Chocolate. That's creamy, blended, crispy, ooh, so dreamy. Gotta have it, it's so scrumptious. Love that chocolate when it crunches. Chocolate is scrumptious when it crunches. That's what I love. Nestle Crunch.
July on TNN sizzles with a very special concert event starring David Lynn Jones, Mason Ruffner, Stevie Ray Vaughan, the legendary rock band Leonard Skinner, and host Charlie Daniels. It's the best of country rock showcase. Charlie Daniels Volunteer Jam 13. Saturday, July 23rd at 9 Eastern and 6 p.m. Pacific, only on TNN.
The American West, a wide, untamed land that produced men to match your mountains. The legends and the lifestyle of the cowboy era are being preserved here at the National Cowboy Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City. Experience the cattle drives, the Indian wars, the majestic landscape through the paintings and sculptures on permanent display. View the portraits of the men and women who made the Old West live on in television and film. Come relive the dream today at the National Cowboy Hall of Fame in Oklahoma City, open 9 to 5 daily.
Imagine the 5 upper Great Lakes, Superior, Huron, St. Clair, and Erie, as being a giant bathtub, and this is the drain. The Niagara River feeds all of that water out toward the Atlantic Ocean in millions upon millions of gallons a day. There you see the American Falls, and in the distance, the giant Horseshoe Falls. And here you see, from the aerial view, Walter Earl continuing to dominate the Niagara Falls Grand Prix.
Walter right now is running all by himself in that number 14 car. Everybody thought maybe he was the rabbit to go out there and just run it into the ground and take a few with him. Not so. That car has performed flawlessly. And in fact, for the story on the second number 14 stop, let's go down to the pit area and Paul Page.
Well, that rather quick stop by Walter Earl was a surprise to everybody on the wall here. He radioed in and said he needed more fuel. Now, he has a little meter on the dash that tells him how much fuel he's used and how much much is left. The other car, Hurley Haywood's car, is making plenty of fuel, no problem. But apparently this machine metering slightly different. And so as a result, they jumped on the car, just splashed a few gallons in, and sent him right back out, keeping him in the lead all along.
And that huge crew was also able to get the 44 car of Hurley Haywood back out onto the racetrack. He went a few laps down and is currently in the 13th position, but Hurley will salvage a few points for the day. Walter Rule, even though he's likely to win here today, is not the man out he plans to win the championship with. He will alternate with other drivers in Germany. Right now, let's go to Brock Yates, who's with Bob Anderson, the vice president of SCCA Pro Racing.
Tell me just very quickly, what is the role of the Sports Car Club of America in the formative stages as an event like this develops? How early in the process do you become involved?
Well, this one developed a little more quickly than most. We've been talking approximately a year now, and we provide the organizational services, and we communicate and coordinate the insurance requirements, the FIA requirements, provide the people to staff the event, and get quite involved even in the design of the course.
Just a quick question about how many professional events do you and your organization run every year?
This year, I believe we're sanctioning 104 events. Some is the headliner, and some is support races for other sanctioning bodies.
Pretty busy schedule.
Yes, it is.
We'll let you get back to work. Thank you.
The leader, Walter Rule, with the number 14 car, is on the last lap of this event. 96 miles per hour. The all-wheel drive characteristics of that car allow him to carry far more speed through the corners. Want to put a little zest in your weekend? Well, call that membership information number on your screen. That's the Sports Car Club of America. There are so many volunteer positions that can be filled, and from registration to corner workers to safety to timing and scoring. It's an awful lot of fun. You make a lot of new friends, and ultimately you might even get involved as a driver, like Walter Rule. He may be from Germany, but he's a member of the SCCA.
And he is just about to win his first ever Trans Am race right here in Niagara Falls. He heads down to just about one more corner left here. Down Wendell Street, on the brakes, downshift, around that right-hander. Here comes the crew. The checkered flag waves. Walter Rule wins it here in Niagara Falls. Flag to flag, one of the most dominating exhibitions I've seen in a long time, Steve Evans.
Well, consider that he lapped everyone in the field with the exception of Scott Pruitt. That's a performance that will long be remembered. Walter Rule, three-time World Rally Champion, wins on the pavement.
Dodge Ram 100, the best full-size pickup buy in America. $1,400 less than a comparable Ford F-150. Only $88.53. But it's got to be right. It's got to be a Dodge.
Why do over 35 of the world's best engineered performance cars come with Goodyear Eagle street radials exclusively? A major reason is the Goodyear Eagle contact patch, where the car ultimately meets and responds to the road. So it's no coincidence that Goodyear Eagles are the overwhelming choice of the world's best engineered performance cars. Goodyear Eagles, because there really is a difference.
To those who fearlessly accept the challenge of car care, Kmart dedicates the following. The Carnauba Turbo.
You're watching TNN.
Here are the final results of the SCCA Escort Trans Am at Niagara Falls. And how about variety? Royal, Audi, Pruitt, Mercure, Hare, Oldsmobile, Brassfield, Corvette, and Les Lindley in the Camaro round out the top five. Johnson and Mandeville, they're in Mazdas. Nesbitt and Clinton in Camaros. Then St. James finishes seventh in yet another Mercure. And now, let's go to Steve with the winner.
Walter Rule rolls out of the number 14 victorious. Walter, the German word for perfect, I believe, is perfect. And that describes you and your automobile today. Perfect.
Yeah, my car was perfectly. It was very easy for me to win.
You know, the last lap of the race was within a second or so of your qualifying time. The car was equally as strong at the finish.
I just want to show how good my car is. Even in the last lap, it's possible to go fastest time.
And the control, the car control that you exhibited was just phenomenal.
It was exceptional, fantastic.
Again, congratulations to Walter Rule, the entire Audi team. What an effort today. Paul Page is with second place. Paul?
Well, now here he is, climbing out of the car, a cold drink of water for second place, Scott Pruitt, on what had to be one terribly long day chasing Walter Rule.
I'll tell you, the only time I saw him was a start.
After that, I had no idea. We just was, we were told we were running second. But I can't say enough about the team, and especially the sponsors, Strollite and, of course, Roush. They did a super job, and Ford remanufactured products. Without them, this all wouldn't have been possible.
On a day like this, were you in contact with anybody at any time after the start?
Well, Willie and I ran together for a while, and then Hurley and I ran together for a while. And I guess they had problems. We decided to go with just one tire of the 4 tires on a change, and let me tell you what, by the end of the race, it was pretty slippery.
Okay, Scott Pruitt finishes second. Now we go to Steve Evans and third.
Well, Walter Rural may have made it look easy here today in the Trans Am in Niagara Falls, but for Irv Hare and everybody else in this race, it was a real battle, and you're a survivor of it.
Yeah, we had early in the race there, a back marker sealed oil all over the front of my car, oiled my windshield, and couldn't see where I was going, and I was hoping for a yellow, and it just never came. And then when I finally did come in the pits, our other car was in, and they weren't ready for me, and nobody washed my windshield very good, and I lost my drink hose, and it was just not a good race.
Long afternoon for Irv Hare and everybody else except Walter Rural, who dominated here at Niagara Falls. Great day of racing. I'm Brock Yates for Steve Evans and Paul Page. Thanks for joining us.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish.